Hello, humans. I am Scott Cannon coming to you live on WLTH 1370 AM from the greatest city in all the world. Gary, Indiana. And this is the Counterpoint. Well, folks, when you've been watching and studying the mainstream media as long as I have, you begin to notice certain patterns that develop and manifest themselves over and over and over again. Now, you may say I'm cynical, and that may be true, but I have a good reason to be, as the mainstream media has always found a way to be dishonest and duplicitous when it comes to the way they report stories, especially involving black people. For example, I've noticed a certain pattern in the way the mainstream media reports crime. I like to call it the sandwich theory. The media loves to start a news cycle with a high-profile story of a black man doing something bad that they can fixate on, and then they sandwich a bunch of stories about white people doing something wrong in there, and then they like to end the cycle with the story of another black man doing something bad. For example, what led off the news cycle last week? That's right, folks, Jussie Smollett. His hate crime hoax that me and Boose called pretty much from the beginning a hoax, completely unraveled, leading to the Chicago PD and media and everyone else just heaping mounds and mounds of scorn on the Empire Star. Now, while I always thought it was a hoax, and I think Jussie Smollett should be punished, I don't think the story is really worth all that they've turned it into. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't technically falsely accuse anybody, actually, as he didn't name any names. And if you really look at it, nobody really got hurt. He just got fake beat up. There's no reason to ruin a man's life or career when you have tons of white folks who've actually gotten black people killed and maimed with their false allegations and have had little to nothing happen to them. Now that's a top piece of bread on the sandwich right there. Now here's the meat. Alex Acosta, who's now Donald Trump's labor secretary, used to be the U.S. federal attorney, who was in charge of federal prosecutors. Well, it was found by a federal judge that Acosta and the federal prosecutors under Acosta broke the law and made a deal with a pedophile named Jeffrey Epstein, who was heavily involved in sex trafficking and abusing teenage girls. Now, who is Jeffrey Epstein, you ask? Oh, just a billionaire, financier, political donor, and good friends with former President Bill Clinton, child molesting actor and from Hollywood, Kevin Spacey, and current President Donald J. Trump, who hired the guy Acosta that let Epstein off, basically as his labor secretary. You have two presidents and Hollywood actors and celebrities flying around the world on a jet for years that Epstein was using to traffic sex slaves around the world. Now, the media covered it a little bit, but they've slowly let it slide down the news cycle and kind of trickle out and die. Ready for some more meat? Well, Robert Kraft, the billionaire owner of the New England Patriots, who's donated tons of money to the Democratic Party and is also friends with Donald Trump, who once again finds himself in one of these types of stories, was found to actually be a client in a sex ring involving women from Asia who would service Kraft at a massage parlor in South Florida. Once again, the media covered the story. I saw it, but they're not going to cover it with the same attention that they cover Smollett. You better believe that. Now, you still hungry? Well, good, because even more meat is coming on this sandwich, and this time it's a thick, succulent, prime beef steak. The Catholic Church had a summit last week to address the countless allegations of child molestation that have been constantly flowing from the church over the years, culminating with Pope Francis declaring that evildoers who are tools of the devil will be met with the wrath of God. Now, many in the media have covered this story somewhat, as the Catholic Church is still a big deal in this country. But what they're not covering is just how deep this story goes. It's well known that the current Pope, Jorge Bergoglio, is from Argentina. But what isn't being reported is the very huge accusations that have been levied against him and his good friend, Gustavo Vera. Let's start from scratch. Natasha Jait, or Jait, was a very high-profile model, actress, and reality TV star in the Pope's home country of Argentina. She also had a second life as what is called a VIP escort, meaning Natasha often worked as a prostitute for the rich and famous in Argentina, admittedly so. In doing so, she was contacted by one of her country's intelligence agencies and asked to, in a sense, get some dirt on some of Argentina's rich and famous. And boy did she. Last year on her radio show, she named names of the rich and powerful and famous who were involved in sex trafficking. She named athletes, politicians, and celebrities, and some of the names she named were not very happy with her naming them, and she lived under constant threat over the past year. But it is one name that she named that particularly got her in deep trouble in Argentina: Gustavo Vera, Pope Francis's right-hand man, who she called a pimp, a pedophile, and an embezzler of funds from the nonprofit he runs, and claims she had evidence to prove this. Now, Natasha Jait was facing so much backlash from her accusations that she wrote in a tweet last year, "Warning, I am not going to commit suicide. I am not going to take too much cocaine and drown in a bath or shoot myself. So if this happens, it wasn't me. Save this tweet." Well, just 2 days ago, on Saturday, Natasha Jait was found dead at a party in Argentina from what the police called, you guessed it, a cocaine overdose. Now, obviously, her family are saying this is ridiculous, as the actress was on medications that would have prevented her from taking the drug, but the media seems to be completely fine with not even investigating this story in any way outside of Argentina. So we've got the meat. Where's the bottom part of the bread? What's 9 times out of 10 going to start this week's news cycle right now if you turn it on? R. Kelly. R. Kelly was arrested and charged with molesting 3 teen girls in the late 90s and early 2000s. So apparently, 20 years ago, this all happened, and the police and the media are just supposedly finding out about this. But you better believe the media is going to make sure you know everything about R. Kelly, so that you're not really thinking about Trump's friends, Jeffrey Epstein and Robert Kraft, and so that you're not really going to be thinking about if the Catholic Church had something to do with murdering someone who called the Pope complicit in a sex trafficking ring. Yeah, you could call me cynical, but times like this is exactly why I ironically agree with Donald Trump that the mainstream media is indeed the enemy of the people. Okay, folks, you can chop it up with me on Twitter at the Chemist Lives. Chemist spelled with a K. I'm a product of the Gary Community School System. We can talk about politics, music, sports. You can tell me how terrible I am at my job. Or you can listen to me every Monday from 6 to 8 on Issues and Answers with Jonathan Boose. I am Sky Cannon. I was the Counterpoint on WLTH 1370M. God bless the working class. God bless labor. And I am out, humans.